Apple is celebrating its 50th birthday, so I thought we should do a top 5 Apple devices. Over the past 5 decades, Apple has released groundbreaking products. The first Mac, the iPod that held 1,000 songs in your pocket, the first iPhone, and so many times made powerful technology accessible to more people. And Apple has often made devices and products for the creator, packaging iMovie and GarageBand with every Mac even till today. And even though many devices had naysayers at the beginning, they have stood the test of time and make some of the greatest products today. But rather than rank their top 5 products, I want to give out 5 awards. And not for individual devices, but for product categories, like the most just works product, the most useful, the most impactful Apple product, the product with the most potential, and the most Apple-y Apple product. That'll make more sense when we get to it, and we're going to have to refer to this encyclopedic volume by David Pogue chronicling Apple's first 50 years. I actually got to interview him with David Sparks on Mac Power Users. I'll link that episode below. But Apple had some wild ideas even decades ago that are proving true right now. But we'll get to that in a minute. The first category, the most just works Apple product. One of the mantras that Steve Jobs often said was Apple products,
it works like magic.
You take them out of the box, you don't have to worry about specs and speeds and feeds, the products just work and work with each other. Well, I think there's one Apple product that throughout the years have just worked out of the box and are still great, and that's AirPods. From the first time you take AirPods out of the box and pair them with your iPhone, that card that slides up that even shows you the engraving you might have got on your AirPods, not only is it a delightful experience, but AirPods then just work, and they pretty much work all the time, at least for me. The auto switching across Apple's ecosystem is super powerful. Even if I'm listening to something on my iPhone, I can start playing something on my Mac, and the AirPods just automatically switch. Even if I want to watch something on my Apple TV, I can go to the control center, switch to AirPods, and the AirPods work seamlessly across Apple devices. And I think it's safe to say these are ubiquitous. You see them everywhere. So the AirPods wins the Just Works category. And number 2, the most impactful. What Apple device made the biggest dent in the universe and maybe changed the trajectory of that category forever? Well, I think it's safe to say that product is the iPhone. From that very first announcement, probably the most iconic announcement from Steve Jobs himself, announcing that they had built a phone, an internet communicator, and a widescreen video iPod. And it's not 3 devices, it's just one, the iPhone.
And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
And while that first generation might have been expensive and it didn't really hit the mass market just yet, by the time we got to the iPhone 4, the iPhone changed everything. Not only did it enable entirely new ecosystems, think DoorDash, Uber, Instacart, all of that because everyone is going to have a smartphone in their pocket. But it also allowed things like social media to explode. Plus, this device means you were connected anywhere, you could message, call, and even video call whoever you wanted anywhere in the world. And it also created a world of careers, from developers making third-party apps for the iPhone and Apple's ecosystem, to creators like me who now cover things like software updates, how-to, and guides for this device. I don't think there's any question that the most impactful Apple device in its history is the iPhone. But there's 3 more categories: the most useful, the most Apple-y, and the most potential. Now we'll get to which category this device wins in a second, but the iPad is definitely in one of them, and that's also where today's sponsor comes in, Paperlike. If you want that tactile feel of premium paper when you're writing, drawing, or editing podcasts on iPad, the new Paperlike 3 screen protector is what you need. Now, I'd actually never applied a screen protector on my iPad, like ever. But Paperlike's new Butterfly application system makes it super easy to install the screen protector, makes it cleaner, easier, faster, and more reliable. Jan, the CEO of Paperlike, even applied an iPad screen protector on the floor of CES on my iPad, and he did it flawlessly, which is wild. It has a no-stress, dust-free application. It eliminates the 3 biggest problems: dust-caused bubbles, misalignment, and unclear instructions. There's a video walkthrough that does it step by step. It has this little tool where you can line up the corner of the screen protector and it walks you through which layer to pull at each time. And those 4 layers are able to catch all the dust. It gives it a clean room effect. It doesn't leave the screen exposed to particles in the air. That helper tool gives you a flawless alignment. And it comes with 2 in the box, but I didn't need the second one. First one went on perfectly. And you can't beat the feel of a Paperlike screen protector. Even when I'm editing podcasts, I love the tactile feel of the Apple Pencil on the screen protector. And if you're drawing, taking notes, or really doing anything with your Apple Pencil, the Paperlike screen protector feels incredible. So scan this QR code here or check the link down in the video description and grab your Paperlike today. Remember, 2 screen protectors come in the box. I still have the second one if I want to put that on another iPad, and it has changed how everything feels on the iPad and makes it so much nicer with the Apple Pencil. So scan here or the link is down in the video description, and my thanks to Paperlike for sponsoring this video. All right, number 3, the most useful. While the iPhone is in everybody's pocket, it's pretty ubiquitous, changed the world, the most impactful, there is one Apple device that I could not do my current work without. And while I even might prefer using other Apple products over this one, I'll get to that in a second, the Mac wins the most useful. From the first Mac with its graphical user interface, all the way to today with the new MacBook Neo, bringing the Mac down to its cheapest ever, making it more accessible to more people. When it comes to getting work done in the creative fields, the Mac is number 1. It is a workhorse. And for the work I do, recording and editing video in Final Cut, recording lots of podcasts on my Mac using Audio Hijack, all the tools and utilities that help me get things done faster, which allows me to make the amount of content. If I could only have one Apple device to do all of my work, I would choose the Mac over any other. And now with Apple Silicon all the way up to the M5, maybe we'll even see an M5 Ultra this summer at WWDC, the Mac is more powerful than ever, allowing things like local AI models, which is why Mac Minis are selling like crazy right now. Or the wild daisy chaining of new Mac Studios, incredibly powerful for local AI models. While it would be tough to only have one Apple device and not the rest of the ecosystem, if I had to choose one, it would be the Mac. And I love my Mac Studio. I'm a desktop computer kind of guy. I love being able to sit down and get to work on that machine, but whenever I travel or if I'm gonna edit video somewhere else, the M4 MacBook Air is still super powerful. I've recorded podcasts in hotel rooms with 4K cameras, microphones, edited multicam video while I've been traveling. This was the machine I brought to WWDC last year, CES, and like lots of videos we've seen, everything from the MacBook Neo up to the Mac Studio can really get stuff done. And like we've seen in lots of MacBook Neo videos, the entire Mac lineup is powerful and can get work done. So when it comes to the most useful, I have to say, it's the Mac. But when I think about the most Apple-y product, what product in Apple's lineup really embodies the ethos? Being at the corner of liberal arts and technology, what Apple device brings the most whimsy, the most delight, that when you take it out of the box, you're just happy you get to use it? And to make even more sense of this device being the most Apple-y, let's go a little bit back in time. Back in 1987, John Sculley, famously the ouster of Steve Jobs, actually wrote a memoir that he called The Odyssey. And in it, he talks about a product called the Knowledge Navigator. There's even a video from back in 1987. I'll actually put a link to it on YouTube down in the description, but stay with me and just watch a few seconds of this video showing off the Knowledge Navigator and tell me what you think it looks like.
John Fleming of Uppsala University. He published in the Journal of Earth Science of July 20 of 2006.
Yes, that's it. Copy the last 30 years at this location at 1 month intervals.
Excuse me, Jill Gilbert is calling back.
Great. Put her through.
Hi, Mike. What's up?
If you watch that whole video, you'll see a device that's multi-touch, can talk to you like a voice assistant, has access to the world's knowledge in one device, can be your research and personal assistant, can help you get work done. It's pretty wild that almost 40 years ago, someone at Apple basically imagined this, the iPad, a large screen, multi-touch device, access to the world's knowledge. It does have a voice assistant, which is hopefully getting much better very soon, that you could just talk to and ask it things, which you could do that right now with the ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini app on the iPad. But when it comes to the most Apple-y device, I actually think this goes to the iPad. It was one of the last major product releases that Steve Jobs got to do on stage. He asked if there was space for a device category between the phone and the laptop. Netbooks caught a major stray during that keynote, but I still remember Steve Jobs sitting down and reading the New York Times on the iPad. And while the iPad is often put in the content consumption category, whether it's for reading, watching movies, or for kids, I actually think the iPad embodies Apple's original ethos the most. What's even more fascinating is the Apple team actually started working on the tablet device before the iPhone. It was actually an elaborate setup with a projector that pointed down on a screen and mimicked multi-touch technology. And as they were working on the tablet, the phone market started exploding. They tried to partner with things like the Motorola Rocker, but as you can see, Steve Jobs said, put the tablet project on hold, let's build a phone. And so while the iPhone came before the iPad, Apple was thinking about and developing the tablet first. Now, 3 things about the iPad that I think make it the most Apple-y. Number 1 is the hardware. The modern iPad Pro with an M5 chip is still impossibly thin, the thinnest product Apple makes. Knowing how powerful this device is, and yet still fairly light and extremely thin, brings some of that Apple whimsy and magic to the device. It still boggles my mind that this whole thing is a computer and something that thin. Over the years, Apple had many pieces of hardware that seemed to defy physics. Many times, Jobs tried to defy physics, and designers like Johnny Ive had to kind of rein it back in. But I think the iPad hardware, how it looks and feels, really stands out. And number 2, the accessibility of the iPad. People say the iPad is for kids and maybe the elderly, and while that's true, it's also for everyone in between, whether it's artists, musicians using it for digital sheet music, for me, editing podcasts, for lots of artists and designers using specialized apps. And while it can do all those powerful tasks, yes, it's actually great for kids too. I don't think there's ever been a class of how to teach kids how to use iPad. Every time you hand an iPad to a child, they seem to just intuitively know how to use it, and they can find apps that they actually want to use. And for many adults, the iPad is the best computer. This is the computer my mom uses. She doesn't have a Mac right now, and the iPad is the best balance of simplicity. You can't really get it wrong, but you can do everything you need to with the apps, the browser, and everything's right here. And number 3, for me, there's an intangible delight to using the iPad. So often when I have a task to do and I could do it on my Mac or I can do it on my iPad, I just want to do it on my iPad. Going out to my patio, sitting down with the Magic Keyboard and working outside, I just enjoy doing the same tasks on the iPad than I do on my Mac. And when it comes to editing podcasts, I've been doing it for almost 10 years on the iPad exclusively, and I can do it faster and enjoy doing it more on the iPad with the great app Ferrite. And that is another huge part of the Apple story that we don't have time to get into, but developers making incredible apps for Apple's platforms has made it what it is today. And it is really developers that make the iPad one of the most Apple-y and whimsical devices I think they've ever made. And so while the iPad is not perfect, and I wish that browser was truly a desktop browser, and I wish I could do things like run a clipboard manager utility and run other apps in the background, when it comes to the most Apple-y core of the ethos of the liberal arts and technology corner, I really do think the iPad is the most Apple-y device. But let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. I do just really like the iPad. But finally, number 5, what Apple device has the most potential for the future? Now this was a close one. I thought about talking about the Apple Vision Pro, and I do think augmented reality glasses, years into the future, might have a market, but the Apple device I think has the most potential for in the future become even more ubiquitous and more useful for more people is the Apple Watch. When the Apple Watch launched, it was very limited to what it can do. Apple wasn't really sure how people would use it. It had some of those fitness features, but they launched it with third-party apps even on that original Apple Watch, which was really slow and maybe they should have waited till the Series 3. But in the past 10 years, the Apple Watch has clearly become a health-focused device. Apple has built things in like blood oxygen and even blood pressure monitoring, all the heart features like echocardiograms, now tracking your sleep, and even the low and high heart rate warnings. I actually know a young person personally who was warned about heart rate, felt fine, but went to the doctor and found out they were in kidney failure. In that instance, the Apple Watch might have saved their life. They might not have known something was going on without it. And there are other countless stories. Dan at Apple Insider, when I was doing the podcast there, he was in a major crash and the Apple Watch actually dialed emergency services. And there are many stories like his where the Apple Watch has literally saved lives. But there's also huge potential here. When glucose monitoring can be done by something like an Apple Watch, and blood pressure monitoring that's reliable and ongoing, while it might not be fun or sexy use cases, I think the Apple Watch has massive potential to be a key part of many people's lives. And as AI tools become more ubiquitous, and if Apple's voice assistant gets really good with the introduction of Gemini actually running it, the Apple Watch might become even more useful for AI. I do a lot of my smart home commands from Apple Watch. I set my reminders that way. When I invoke the voice assistant on Apple, I mostly do it from the Apple Watch. And if you could talk to AIs on the watch, maybe even run the local AI models on the watch years from now, this little device that's on so many people's wrists even right now could become a central point to their Apple ecosystem. So most potential is the Apple Watch. And as an honorable mention, I do think the voice assistant, as we're right on the cusp of Gemini powering it, and who knows what AI is going to look like 5 to 10 years from now, voice assistant is a big deal. I still remember an interview where Josh Topolsky was interviewing Steve Wozniak and was asked where he thought technology was going. And even back then, this was 10, 15 years ago, voice commands and interacting with computers using your voice is going to be huge in the future. And I think he actually predicted that.
Siri on the iPhone.
Yeah, but then you've got one person yelling into the phone over here.
Different apps do different things right now with voice.
Right.
And all of the hooks are built into the Android operating system has the hooks for voice. But I think in the end we need something like AppleScript for voice, where you can talk to any program, any application that builds in its own little vocabulary, its set of commands, because then your language, your voice language didn't define a certain vocabulary. Right. It's different depending which apps you have.
And once the actual built-in voice assistant and the assistant on the Mac gets powered by AI and Apple gives it all the capabilities, hopefully soon, that things like Claude Cowork can do right now, but with privacy and security in mind and built in, that is going to be a huge step forward for all of Apple's devices. So after 50 years, those are some of my favorite Apple devices, and I'm going to be covering everything going forward right here on the channel. So get subscribed and hit that like button. And by the way, I actually found the serial number for my original Mac. My introduction to the Apple ecosystem was actually an iPod video, but then my first Mac was a G4 12-inch PowerBook. And I actually still have the box, but unfortunately I sold that computer years ago because I was young and we were married and we needed the money, and I really want to get that Mac back. So I don't know how we can do it, internet, but here's the serial number for that G4 PowerBook. I searched the AIs, I searched eBay, no idea where this computer is, but I think it would be a really cool story, at least for me, if I could somehow get my hands back on my original 12-inch G4 PowerBook. So here's the serial number. I'll put it down in the description as well. Internet, do your thing. I don't know how it can happen, but I don't know. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. We'll see. So anyway, get subscribed, hit that like button. Let me know if you disagree with any of my product and category choices in this video. And I'll put a couple videos right up here that YouTube thinks you'll really enjoy. My last shortcuts video, I'll actually put right here. Thanks for watching. Happy birthday, Apple, and I'll catch you next time.